सर्वदेव देवी स्वरूपा श्री राम कृष्णा नमः। राम रामेति रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने राम नाम वरानने। शांति शांति शांति। Revered Swami Swatma Ramananji Maharaj, dear sisters, brothers, and loving children, Om Namo Narayanaya to each and every one of you. We feel so blessed and happy to be here this afternoon to join in the Ram Navami celebrations. The compassionate Lord, seeing the suffering of humankind, takes birth on earth to guide us on how to live progressively. Although thousands of years have passed, yet we revere Sri Ram because the principles that he and the other characters stood for are eternal. We learn the importance of being moral and living for the good of humanity. Truthfulness and other virtues always triumph, so it is best to be virtuous. The Ramayana begins so sweetly, full of love, joy, peace, and unity. But as the story unfolds, there is much pain and suffering caused by jealousy, greed, pride, and other vices. Through the many enchanting incidents, we learn excellent morals that make human beings different from the rest of God's creation. The spotless character of Sri Ram and his brothers, Mother Sita, King Dashrath, Hanumanji, and many others inspire us to manifest values like forgiveness, patience, and forbearance. Since God is seated in our hearts, we too are divine by nature and have the potential to awaken these noble qualities and make life peaceful and meaningful. Sri Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughna were sent to sage Vashishta's ashrama from a very young age to acquire knowledge. They were taught how to rule a kingdom, know about God, be charitable, understanding, and patient. Our Guruji, Revered Swami Shivapadananji Maharaj, used to say, the Guru wants nothing from the disciples except that you should progress and reach the goal. We see how the Guru carefully and lovingly trains the young disciples. He prophetically said, today you are princes. Tomorrow you may have to go to the forest. So you must learn how to live under trying circumstances, under good and bad conditions. Sri Ram's compassionate nature is seen at the school when he noticed that the brothers and the other students who were so young missed their mothers at night. So he comforted them by singing them to sleep. Once, Guru Mata, that is the respected wife of Sage Vashishta, sang a beautiful lullaby to the boys at bedtime. Naturally, having the nature of a mother, she too felt for the boys and sang to them. The next morning, the sage criticized her, saying that they must not be pampered. They must grow up to be strong young men. The Guru Mata replied that they should not be like stones with no knowledge of the fine arts, and that fine arts feed our soul and make life holistic and meaningful. A holistic approach is of a great advantage for all-round fulfillment. From now on, music became a part of their education. The boys were taught to sing and play musical instruments, and they learned the arts and yoga too. They also acquired knowledge of the Atman or the soul. This is the highest knowledge because it frees us from pain and suffering and enables us to cope with our challenges. By receiving a holistic education, youth and children learn to be strong and are empowered to face the adversities of life. Virtues always win over vices. Even though honest people experience challenges, their optimistic attitude and determination to do good enable them to grow and be progressive. The theme of dharma runs like a golden thread throughout the scripture, the Ramayana. The many stories teach us to manifest our innate divinity. God is seated in our hearts, and we feel this divine presence by overcoming vices like lust, anger, and jealousy, which are the real demons if we do not get rid of them. The purpose of life is to transform ourselves and realize our innate divinity. It was so sad that when Manthara, the handmaid of Mother KK, of Queen KK, heard that Sri Ram will be crowned very soon, she ran to Mother KK and said, don't you know that if Ram becomes the king, then Mother Kaushalya will make you her slave and Bharat's life will be in danger. Of course, at the beginning, Mother KK refused to listen to this because she knew that, of course, she loved Ram even more than her own son Bharat. And she knew the nature of Mother Kaushalya, said that will never happen. But gradually, as Manthara continued putting that poison into her mind, Mother KK fell to that. And so we too have to be very careful whose company we keep. Master always says, be in the company of the holy, be in the company of the wise, be in the company of those who mean good, who want to help you. So the banishment of Sri Ram to the forest was the most devastating challenge that was faced by King Dashrath. Of course, Mother KK demanded the two boons, and one was to make Bharat the king, and the other to send Ram to the forest for 14 years. King Dashrath was totally ruined. He was grief-stricken and could not bear to see Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Mother Sita wearing the garbs of ascetics. He wept bitterly and gave up his life within a few days, repeating, Ram, Ram. So that was very sad because he could not live without Sri Ram. So the once joyful and happy Ayodhya was now steeped into grief. And during this time, it so happened that Bharat and Shatrughna were not in the palace. They were gone to Bharat's maternal grandfather's home. But when Bharat returned to Ayodhya, he was heartbroken to learn what had happened. He vowed to bring Sri Ram back to Ayodhya and install him as the rightful king. We witness a very touching and amazing scene in the Ramayana when Bharat goes to meet Sri Ram in the forest and begs him to return to rule over Ayodhya. It's amazing to see how both the brothers are determined to follow their dharma. And so neither of them wants the kingdom. So unlike today, when we notice how everyone will grab that opportunity to become king and to get all the wealth and the riches. It so happened that King Janak, when he heard that his daughter Sita, Sri Ram, and Lakshman were in the forest, he too came there. And Sri Ram and the Guru, Vashishta, Bharat also said, you are now like our father and you will have to guide us. Please tell us who is right. I am saying that Ram is the rightful heir and he should go back to Ayodhya, but Sri Ram refuses and wants me to rule. How can I rule when Sri Ram is elder than me? So Sri Ram's point was that he had given his word to his father. He promised to go to the forest for 14 years. And especially now that King Dashrath was no more living in the body, he could not break that promise. So we notice how King Janak meditates on Lord Shiva and asks for guidance. It's so beautiful when he comes out of the meditation and says to Bharat, King Janak says, you see, Bharat, your love for Sri Ram has won. The scale is down on your side, and everybody smiles and is so happy to know now that Sri Ram will have to return to Ayodhya. But what does King Janak say thereafter? He says, Bharat, if you really love Sri Ram, then you must ask Ram, what does he want? You must not have your own selfish desires. You must be selfless, and you must do what your beloved wants. The one whose life, for whom you are living, you have to do his bidding, and that will be the right thing. So it's so amazing to see how even King Dashrath, how he helps them on the path of dharma. But Bharat then asks Sri Ram, if I ask you something, will you please give it to me? And Sri Ram says, even if you ask me for my life, I will give it to you. And then Bharat asks for the paduka, the sandal, and sandals of Sri Ram, puts it on his head and humbly goes to Ayodhya. We know that he lives in Nandigram, that is not in the palace, not in the luxurious palace, but rules from Nandigram as the agent of Sri Ram, putting the paduka, the sandals, on the throne of Ayodhya. So we see how the story of Ram and Bharat is eternally cited as the best examples of true love between brothers. Also, true love between a devotee and God. Ask God what he wants. We learn that spiritual wealth is far greater than material wealth. Spiritual wealth makes a person immortal. After thousands of years, we still admire and remember Bharat only because of his divine qualities. Our lives become blessed by following their example of selfless devotion to God. Several characters in the Ramayana exemplify selfless love and devotion and service to the Lord. Kevat is another simple example, an example of a simple boatman who had amazing, ingenious qualities. It was so amazing that when Sri Ram, Mother Sita, and Lakshman came to the border of Kosala and had to cross over the Ganga, Kevat, the boatman, was called, and Kevat, being so simple and even unlettered, he knew that Sri Ram is not an ordinary person. He devised an ingenious way to worship Sri Ram. So he said to Sri Ram, before you step on my boat, I must wash your feet, O Lord. So Sri Ram asked, but what is the reason? He said, no, when you just touched a stone, it became a woman, a beautiful woman. That is the story of Mother Ahalya. Ahalya Bai was cursed and she was turned into a stone. And it was said, her husband said that when Sri Ram touches you, you will gain your original form again. So Kevat used this and said, no, your feet have got some magic. If you touch my boat and it becomes something else, how will I earn a livelihood? So I have to wash your feet, take out all the magical powers that are there, and drink that water and see nothing happens to me. Then you can. So beautifully grabbing the opportunity to serve God. That is what our big Swamiji used to say. I remember when families used to come to offer arti and offer prasad, big Swamiji used to say, you are running towards God. Grab every opportunity you can to serve the Lord. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Yes, there will be hundreds of people if we don't do it, but take the opportunity for yourself and become blessed. So we see that how Kevat drank the Charanamrit of the Lord's feet after washing. And when they crossed over the Ganga, Sri Ram said, now we have to pay you because you have brought me across. But Kevat was very, very clever. He said, Lord, you and I are in the same business. So there can be no charge. And Sri Ram was perplexed and he asked, the same business? What do you mean? He said, you see, you take people across this ocean of life, the ocean of transmigratory existence, birth and death. I have taken you across the small river, O Lord. So you now owe me something, and that is when I give up the body, you have to take me across this ocean of samsara. In other words, give me liberation. And it's so lovely to see how the Lord just looks at him graciously and smiles, indicating, yes, of course, that is what I will do. So Kevat was filled with joy and he felt blessed and his liberation was secured. So this is what we do. Run to the Lord to serve him. We do not even worry about liberation, but we know that God's favor is on us. God's blessing is on us. His grace is on us. And again, we say that the Ramayana has infinite examples of these beautiful stories to inspire us and help us forward in life. The other interesting story is that of Jatayu. This was the time when Ravana had asked Marich to change his form into a deer to lure Sita into getting the deer for herself. And when Sri Ram goes to shoot that deer, then it will become Marich again. And when Ram and Lakshman are away from the hermitage, Ravan will be able to capture Sita. And so this is what happened. But when Ravan took Mother Sita, of course, it was a pity that she crossed over the Lakshman Rekha. Talking about Lakshman Rekha, whenever we go out anyway, we must repeat God's name and imagine that we have a Lakshman Rekha around us, because this world is so full of danger. So many people leave home and we are not sure that we're going to reach home again because so much of danger is lurking around. Even at home, try to build this Lakshman Rekha, that is the fire of God's protection around us through japa, through meditation, through reading the scriptures. Feel that we are protected. But of course, Mother Sita, as soon as she stepped out of that Lakshman Rekha, Ravan was able to grab her and take her onto his aerial chariot. Mother Sita began to shout and scream for help. She called for Lakshman, she called for Ram, but of course they were too far away going out to get the deer. So Jatayu was an amazing vulture who sacrificed his life to save Mother Sita. Ravana was abducting Mother Sita, and as Mother Sita shouted for help, Jatayu heard this and he came. He said to Ravan, you should not be so unfair. This lady has been left by herself and you are abducting her. That is not the right thing to do. He tried to explain to Ravan, but of course, Ravan would not listen. Jatayu began to fight with him with his beak. He tried to pierce him and fight with him. But of course, Jatayu posed a very brave front against Ravan, and Ravan in the end cut Jatayu's wing off with his sword. And as he fell down to the ground, he began to call for Ram. Mother Sita said, look at Jatayu, you are like my father, and you have given up your life to save me. But Jatayu said, don't worry, my daughter. I will wait here for Ram to come. I will not give up the body until Sri Ram comes. I will inform him about your whereabouts before I give up the body. And as Ram and Lakshman came to look for Mother Sita, when they returned to the hut, of course, Mother was not there. And they went around looking for Mother Sita, and they saw this clump of feathers full of blood and heard the faint sound of Ram, Ram, Ram. And when Sri Ram went and he saw it was Jatayu, he said to Jatayu, Jatayu, I am able to save your life. But Jatayu said, Oh Lord, I will never ever be able to die in your arms. So I am so blessed that my final liberation is in your hands. And that is better because if you save me now, there is no guarantee that I will die in your arms. This teaches us that if we are doing good, we should not worry much about the results. Continue to do good, as even Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you have the rights to work, but not to the fruit thereof. We must learn to be broad like this. We must learn to be good devotees of the Lord and do whatever we can to improve the work, to progress the work, and never ever to find fault and pull things down. So we learn many, many lessons. And our master also says that the best way to improve is to follow the path of bhakti as described by Narada. Sage Narada in the Narada Bhakti Sutras gives us a detailed way of how we can improve, how the cloud of ignorance that is covering our hearts and minds can be removed just by repeating God's name. We pray to Sri Ram to fill our hearts with love and devotion, to allow us to repeat his name and sing his glories, and always try to do good. Hari Om Tat Sat.